Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 4:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt is here at 4:30. We will talk to him about Kamala Harris's abysmal response to Hurricane Helene and his time this Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, alongside President Trump as the president finished up that rally that started on July 13th. Before it was so rudely interrupted, I should say. And then J.D. Vance, President Trump's running mate, will be with us today at 5 o'clock. Don't miss it here on WMAL. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Speaking of the election, over on NBC, one of their data nerds, Steve Kornacki, was saying that President Trump's voter registration advantage right now is pretty good, especially in Pennsylvania. Listen to this.
If Trump gets Georgia, okay, where he leads in the poll average by 1.5 points, if he gets North Carolina, where is literally tied in the polls right now, and where Trump won in 2020, the only one of these battleground states Trump carried 4 years ago, then all Trump would need on top of Georgia and North Carolina would be Pennsylvania, where Harris does have a small lead in the averages now. But Trump getting those three would get him to 270. So that's the importance for him and for Democrats. The importance of blocking that path for Trump in Pennsylvania. Taking a closer look then at the Keystone State, one of the reasons, besides its size, that this is of such interest to Trump and the Republicans, there's a trend here. You're looking at the Trump era. You're looking at party registration in Pennsylvania. And look at this. When Donald Trump first came on the scene, back in 2016, the Democratic advantage in party registration in Pennsylvania was over 900,000 votes. 2020, look now, in 2024, that's been cut almost in two-thirds there, down to about 330,000. There's been a little bit of a boost for Democrats since Kamala Harris took over in registration, but the big picture trend here has been more competitive for Republicans in party registration.
Republicans doing great in voter registration in Pennsylvania. My next guest is responsible for much of that. Scott Presler, founder and executive director of Early Vote Action, joins us now. Scott, good to have you back with us, sir.
Hey, thank you.
I want to start with Butler, Pennsylvania. I know you were standing alongside President Trump on stage this weekend. What was that like, and what was your message to that crowd?
Well, Laura Trump invited me on stage, and I so wasn't prepared. I was wearing shorts because I was registering voters there at the rally. But my message was speaking to groups like union workers, saying to them, we want your vote. And more importantly, we want to keep your union job here in America. The Democrats are sending your jobs overseas. I spoke to our beautiful Amish because the Amish are under attack by Democrat Governor Shapiro with raw milk and religious freedom and school choice. I also spoke to our fraternity brothers and sisters because young people, they want to be able to afford things. They want peace, not war. And they may and can register to vote legally in Pennsylvania if they're from New York, from New Jersey. As long as they're going to school in PA, they can register to vote. And so my message was one of go to vote.pa.gov, register, and vote for Donald J. Trump and deliver Pennsylvania this November.
Tell me about voter registration in the Keystone State right now. What kind of success have you had? Those Republican numbers do sound good, and even today we get even more encouraging numbers there.
Oh, we're absolutely crushing it. We got data today at 10 o'clock a.m. And so the data is in the last 7 days, Democrats added 8,000 voters statewide in the last 7 days, while Republicans added 15,800. We nearly doubled the Democrats. And furthermore, 3 times as many Democrats switched to Republican as the contrary. And we made progress even in Erie County, Northampton County, Center County. And here's the biggest thing of all. They always say that the Southeast kind of trends to the left, and you got Montgomery, Delaware, Chester, Philly. But Bucks County, we have flipped Bucks County to a plurality of registered Republicans. And furthermore, there are now 3,000 more registered Republicans in Bucks County when 4 years ago there were 15,000 more registered Democrats. That's a shift of 18,000 to the right, and a state that was decided by 80,000 votes. Our voter registration is making a real impact.
That's for sure. Pennsylvania, you mentioned it a moment ago, there's a lot of colleges and universities in Pennsylvania, a ton. I went to one of them. I went to a Catholic college up there in Pennsylvania, and you really, that is such a key point that if you are a college student and you happen to reside there because you're going to school there, you can vote there. Now, you can't vote anywhere else, but boy, if you're going to pick a state to register and to vote, it would be Pennsylvania this year. Scott, what does that look like on those college campuses? How much success are you having getting students registered and supporting Republicans?
Well, we are courting students at Temple, at Villanova, at Slippery Rock, at Penn State, all of the campuses. We're going to Pitt. And really, it's a message of, do you want peace that we had under President Trump, or are you possibly going to be drafted for Kamala? Putin has invaded Ukraine under Kamala and Joe Biden. That is factual. Do you want to be able to afford a home? Students, do you want to be able to afford a car? Are you happy with $4 gas? Or was life better and easier and more affordable under President Trump? And I'll tell you, Center County is below 1,200 voters away from flipping to a plurality of registered Republicans. Dare I say, that is historic. We are seeing Gen Z come over to the right and think in a way that I think hasn't ever been done before. And even millennials, my age group, that age group that, brought upon President Obama, they are now shifting to a majority of registered Republicans. And so young people, you have a choice this November, and I'm asking for your vote for Donald Trump. If you want peace, if you want to be able to afford things, and if you want safe streets for your future children, then vote Trump.
Scott Presler, I like to go to the Dulles Gun Expo from time to time here in our area, and when I go, what I was really pleased to see was that your organization has a presence there, registering people to vote, gun owners to vote in order to protect the Second Amendment and their rights. Tell us about gun owners, hunters. We hear sometimes these reports that gun owners, although there are a lot of them in the United States, are in some cases not registered to vote in many cases. What's happening there? What are the trends showing?
This is huge, and I spoke this on stage at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. 30% of Pennsylvania hunters are not registered to vote. That's 300,000 people in a state that was decided by 80,000 votes. Hunters, if you register, if you vote, we win. 40% of Wisconsin hunters are not registered to vote. Hunters, if you register and you vote, we save our great nation. And I have a call to action today. I want everybody, whatever state that you're listening to, if you're in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, then print off voter registration forms. The deadline to register to vote in Pennsylvania is the 21st. I want you to visit your local VFW or American Legion, visit your local fraternity house, visit your local gun shop, bring voter registration forms with you, and ask the owner, ask whoever is the leader there, and say, listen, may I leave these voter registration forms for you and your entire crew? It is so imperative that you register, that you vote. And we are seeing massive dividends in this courting of the hunting community. And the last thing that I'll say is that Early Vote Action, earlyvoteaction.com, that's my organization, we're putting big teepee 3-foot-sized signs in orange safety color with black lettering that says 30% of Pennsylvania hunters are not registered to vote. Hunt or be hunted. Vote or be hunted.
Can I go back in time? First of all, I love the message that you're sharing on getting hunters and gun owners registered. But I want to go back in time a little bit because I talked to you some time ago about this. Pennsylvania, as of last year, imposed an automatic voter registration, motor voter law. In other words, like when you go to the DMV, you can automatically register to vote in the process of dealing with the DMV. As I understand the data here, Scott Presler, that has helped Republicans tremendously. Is that true?
Yes, Democrat Governor Shapiro, while I don't agree with your taxes, while I don't agree with you coming after raw milk and the Amish, thank you for the automatic voter registration, which is getting a lot of white, working-class, blue-collar Pennsylvanians that wouldn't have registered to vote otherwise or may not have voted otherwise thank you for getting them registered to vote, because the motor voter has actually gained a plurality of registered Republicans over Democrats in that process.
Yeah, and that reflects the data that we're seeing nationwide among Americans who are not registered to vote, but are eligible to be. They are wildly supportive of Trump, aren't they?
Yes, plus 17. And so, in addition to, as I said, the call to action, guys, anybody listening to the show right now, you can do this. Go to your VFW, go to your fraternity house, go to your gun store, go to your RV park, go to your beautiful trailer community, go to areas where you think people feel disenfranchised, feel like the forgotten men and American women in our country. You court their vote, you bring voter registration forms, you get them registered, you can help save our country.
Scott Presler, tell me, you mentioned a couple times, so I want to know more. Tell me about the Amish vote in Pennsylvania. What are the habits among the Amish in Pennsylvania when it comes to elections, and what might be different this cycle?
Well, they get married on Tuesdays in November. What happens on Tuesdays in November?
Yeah.
Election day.
Yeah.
So we're using a tool, the Democrats, and we're getting the Amish to register to vote and do a mail-in ballot. Remember, a mail-in ballot's a paper ballot, and you don't need to use electronics in order to use paper. And so I can show you data in Mifflin County and Juniata County, in the center of the state, Amish-centric counties, that actually Republicans are out registering the Democrats in mail-in voting. And I think it's in part because of our beautiful Amish. I want to make it clear, the Democrats are anti-school choice. Democrats are anti-farming. They're against raw milk. They're against Make America Healthy Again. They are against our religious freedom to be able to practice as we choose here under our First Amendment right. The Democrats are attacking every single aspect of Amish living. And one member of their community, Amos Miller, the Democrats literally seized a Fourth Amendment search and seizure violation, taking away his granola, taking away his raw milk, his dairy, his butter. And so the Amish are personally seeing Democrats actually wage a war against their way of living. And I think that's why we're seeing a record number of them join as new registered voters. And I'll tell you, I just got off the phone today. We are going to be doing a mailer to tens of thousands of unregistered Amish, talking about all the things I just explained to you. We're going to also mail them a voter registration application. And again, in a state, in a commonwealth that was decided by 80,000 votes, every single vote matters.
So completely critical. Finally, Scott Presler, before we let you go, I want to get your reaction to Elon Musk's decision to begin using his America PAC to offer $47 a piece for every registered voter who is referred to a petition that says, I support the First and Second Amendment inside of these swing states. Do you think that's going to be helpful to your effort to get people registered?
Well, I have 8 words. First, Elon is a king, and God bless Elon Musk. Truly, I'm so glad to see finally conservatives having some money behind our causes, that we can focus on voter registration, focus on getting people to the polls. And I fully support the America PAC, and I hope that these millions of petitions that they're getting signed are going to bring a lot of those low propensity voters that may not have voted otherwise to the polls. And last thing, this is very important, to all of my Virginia people, my Commonwealth of Virginia people, Virginia is in play. Early voting has begun. If you don't want to do it by mail, go vote early in person. Type into the internet, Virginia early voting locations. In Fairfax, I know it's probably the courthouse or something like that, but Virginia is honestly in play. You need to support Hung Kao for the United States Senate. Of course, I'm asking for your vote for Donald Trump. And we have several congressional seats that we can flip from blue to red. So put the same amount of time and talent as you would into Pennsylvania, as you would into Virginia, because that wins the White House.
All right. Great message from Scott Presler, as always. Sir, thank you very much with early vote action. Nice to talk to you, as always. All right. As a reminder, coming up on the program today, just a little over half an hour away, we'll be joined by Senator J.D. Vance, who is in Washington today, speaking on the National Mall, marking the anniversary of the terror attack in Israel last year, October 7th, which not only affected Israeli lives, but American lives taken as well, American hostages taken as well. And, of course, we'll have a lot to talk about with the senator about how that campaign is going and that debate he had last week against Tim Walz. Looking forward to that. Eric Schmitt is also minutes away, the senator from Missouri. We'll talk to him about so much 2. But right now, let's talk to you. Donna is calling in from Frederick on line 1. Hello, Donna. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, happy Monday to you, Vince. What an extraordinary show you're having today.
Oh, thank you.
I always enjoy your guests. I get so much out of them. It's amazing.
Me too.
And I'm calling about the rally.
Yeah.
That was outstanding. He was one of the tenors, I believe, based out of New York, who sang not just Ave Maria, but he sang, and this was amazing, Nasan Dorma. Boy, if that doesn't get people's attention, I don't know what will. There's so much significance to that song. Then, oh gosh, How Great Thou Art, he did.
Amazing.
He did. He also sang America the Beautiful. It was remarkable. It was outstanding. It was moving. It was very much in this world of basically eroding the trust of the American people and discouraging people to vote and get involved. This rally was the exact opposite. It gives people hope. It was phenomenal.
Well, that guy's name.
I wanted to share that with people who missed it.
I just want to remind people his name is Christopher Macchio, and as Donna correctly points out, he's one of the 3 New York tenors. Apparently, there are 3 of them. He's one of them, and he, according to the Butler Eagle, that's the local paper that covered this week's rally. They said that he has sold out 10 consecutive concerts at Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center as well in New York City. So this guy is a very highly sought-after tenor, and for good reason. I mean, listen to his voice again. Listen to this. Just amazing. Amazing. Senator Eric Schmitt, just moments away. Hey, good afternoon to you. 436 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, top of the hour, 5 o'clock, we'll chat with Senator J.D. Vance. That's President Trump's running mate during this election season. He'll have a lot to say. We'll talk to him about marking the anniversary of the October 7th terror attack on Israel by Hamas. And we'll get some feedback from him about how the campaign is going, including that debate he had last week against Governor Tim Walz. Want to get inside what the strategy was there. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. President Trump spoke in Butler, Pennsylvania again today to finish the rally that he started on July 13th. Among the people in attendance was Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt. Here's President Trump acknowledging his presence in the crowd.
We have a lot of senators and a lot of people from Congress. I'm going to introduce a few of them that are really outstanding, and they are warriors and they're great patriots. Senator Eric Schmitt. Where's Eric Schmitt? He's around here someplace. Nice, tall, handsome guy. Thank you, Eric. What a great job you've done. He helps us so much with the Senate, and we've got a great Senate. We have to get couple of more senators elected. I think it's going to happen.
Joining us now, the nice, tall, handsome senator from the state of Missouri, Senator Schmitt. Good to have you back with us, sir.
It's great to be with you. I made sure my wife heard that, by the way.
Yeah, you got to make that her ringtone or something.
I'll take what I can get, right?
That's awesome. Great to have you. So what was that like being with President Trump? I was just saying to my producer, Corey, I was like, it's a national disgrace that it takes President Trump to remind everyone that there have now been multiple assassination attempts on him. But he got up there and he gave that rally on Saturday, and man, from where I'm sitting, it looked like one of the biggest, most energetic rallies ever.
It was incredible. I was on the plane with President Trump, and we did a flyover before we landed, and then drove to Butler from Pittsburgh, where we landed. And we could see the crowd. You saw the number of cars. I mean, there were over 100,000 people there. I mean, there's just nobody, Vince, as you know, there's nobody in American politics, or I don't know, anywhere in the world, really, quite frankly, that could pull in 100,000 people for a rally like that. And it was significant, I think, for a couple of reasons. First, it was very important that President Trump acknowledged Corey and his family, the firefighter who died tragically that day. And getting off the plane, it was the first people that he greeted. His wife and 2 daughters, and hopefully it was special for them too to know that he's not forgotten, in that we were returning there, and we don't want to end on that note. and making sure that evil doesn't win.
Yeah.
And it was very special. Ave Maria played, and anyway, it was very moving. It was very moving, that piece of it. The second piece, I think, too, is that President Trump's resilient. This country is resilient. I think everybody's looking for a brighter day, and that day, I think, was symbolic that President Trump came within, millimeters of losing his life that day. And then, of course, you've got the other incident a month later, or I should say 2 months later. And it's just, I think to me, this race, this election means so much more than just two individual candidates. It's about, America sort of restoring our greatness and President Trump leading the charge, after the blood spewing down his face that day to being back there in Butler in front of 100,000 people was just pretty special.
Among the people who spoke, and I'm going to play some more audio coming up later in the show to this effect, but was Eric Trump. Eric Trump brought up the fact that he said there have been all sorts of efforts to stop his father in politics. And he went through the big list that you and I both know, everything from the Steele dossier to the multiple impeachments to the endless persecutions by Democrat lawyers across the country. And he also said that there have been now multiple assassination attempts against his father, which, of course, is true. The media went absolutely crazy this weekend, as they often do, about this subject, Senator Schmitt. And they suggested that it was totally out of bounds to say that Democrats had some sort of responsibility to police their own tone when it came to what they've been saying about President Trump. What do you make of Democrat rhetoric as it relates to Trump and the extent to which that may inflame the passions of especially mentally imbalanced people?
Well, I think we've learned that Trump derangement syndrome is real, and a lot of these folks on the left have just been completely broken. Between President Trump and COVID, it just changed so much of what the Democrats like to talk about norms and they talk about rules and they talk about they don't adhere to any of those things, and just days after both assassination attempts, continuing to refer to him as an existential threat to the country. You've got senators saying this. You've got, quote unquote threats to democracy. The real threat to democracy, this is all projection. It's all projection. The real threats to democracy, there's only one political party that's tried to kick off their opponent off the ballot. There's only one political party that tried to jail him for the rest of his life. There's only one political party that's engaged in a vast censorship enterprise that, in the case that I brought, Missouri versus Biden, was totally exposed. And then with Elon Musk buying Twitter, all of it was exposed. That's not normal. Like, this stuff that's happening right now, I think, is sort of the maturation of the left's movement, which is now exclusively about power and control. This isn't about winning a debate about marginal tax rates, Vince. This is about them adding states to the union, bringing 15 million people here and converting them into voters. This is about, the packing the United States Supreme Court. These are not typical debates. And when they use that language, they're not stopping. There's no speed bump, I think. And I think it's so important for him to get elected. It's so important. He's a disruptor. And we need that right now against this alignment between the media, the Democrats, and permanent Washington.
Yeah,
and we need a real reset.
And you can tell that Democrats know they almost seem inconvenienced by the election. They're like, oh, crap, we have to appeal to the voters, which is why you hear Kamala Harris has been saying lately, oh, we need to get control of the border, she says. The borders are now claiming. She says things like, oh, we need no tax on tips. Oh, we need to cut taxes for the middle class. All of a sudden, she's having these realizations that seem to be suspiciously aligned with her electoral ambitions.
She's not flip-flopping. She's just lying. And they will say and do anything to just get past these 30 days. And then it'll be business as usual. They'll go back to a supercharged administrative state that doesn't care about your liberty or anything. It was just, not that long ago, OSHA, which was an agency created to make sure forklifts beeped when they back up, was trying to force a medical procedure on 100 million Americans with the shot. I mean, they are willing, under the guise of a quote-unquote emergency, to do just about anything. Right. And so they just know they got to get through this. They have an empty vessel in Kamala Harris, who's willing to do all that. But we know her real record. She destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed California, and she wants to destroy this country with these policies. And so you see her now. They're panicking a little bit, Vince. You notice a kind of a shift this week. They know it's not working. The numbers don't look good for them in places like Pennsylvania. And she's going to be doing more of these interviews. The problem is it's a spiral for them because once she's exposed, it's kind of like the backup quarterback like everybody kind of thinks the backup quarterback can do better. And then when you put the backup quarterback in a big game, you realize why the backup quarterback is actually the backup quarterback. And I think we're about to enter a new phase of this campaign where she's totally exposed if people didn't see it already.
Also, it strikes me that Kamala Harris is now doing a media blitz. Look, she's doing all these interviews is like completely over the top for a bunch of reasons. One of them is that they're all by and large very compliant organizations that she's going to speak to. Like she just did an interview on a sex podcast yesterday called Call Her Daddy. And then she just did an interview with 60 Minutes, which has always been nice to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert she's doing this week. The View, imagine how hard-hitting that's going to be. That's tomorrow. The Howard Stern Show, that guy has completely lost his mind. He's just a fire-breathing Democrat. So Eric Schmitt, what kind of media blitz is this?
But here's the thing. She's not even good in those, Vince. Like, she doesn't even perform well in those. And I think the broader, the country, because there's still, look, your feelings towards President Trump, by and large, are relatively set. There's still a lot of people who are trying to figure out Kamala Harris, right? Like, they're trying to figure out who she is, and it's not going well, right? And so this is only going to exacerbate those issues because when she starts talking about policy, she can't really pull it off. And if she does, and we're true to her who she really is, it's way out of step. I mean, taxpayer-funded sex change operation for illegal immigrants. Okay? She believes in that. She's on record saying that. Like, she's okay with open borders. She doesn't think we should be deporting anyone, which is, by the way, been the policy of the United States, Republican and Democrat, for centuries. And this is kind of, again, they've gotten to this place now. I mean, she was contributing to that bail fund in Minnesota, which, of course, Tim Walz was the governor. And many of those people who were let out in the George Floyd riots have committed violent crimes since. So she is who she is, and I think people are going to figure it out. And I think President Trump being in Butler, Pennsylvania, the iconic image of this election, when people look back 30 years from now, Vince, it's his fist pump, fight with the American flag in the backdrop. And I think his return to that place, they don't even like to talk about it because it humanizes him. So your beginning question, which was, why don't they ever talk about this and the assassination attempts? Because it makes him a human being. And they can't call him literally Hitler or whatever the phrase of the week is that they want to try to assign to him if he's actually a human being. Yeah. And he is.
Well, and that behavior, of course, is tearing the country apart, which is just awful. Yep. Senator Schmitt, you talk about the campaign, and you just mentioned a theme that I think is really interesting, that Kamala Harris is for sex change surgeries on illegal aliens who are in detention, and for criminals, too, for that matter, here in the United States. That has become a theme in what appears to be a very effective Donald Trump campaign ad. I was watching some of the football games this weekend, and that ad kept coming up, which is a clear sign that the Trump campaign knows this is an effective line of attack. All of these interviews that Kamala Harris is now undertaking, all of a sudden, that seems to indicate to me that there's a bit of a panic going on inside of her campaign. What is to the extent that you can be objective on this question, what is your assessment of sort of what is going on between these two presidential campaigns right now?
Well, I think, I spoke at the convention, and I think that was just a mere few days after the assassination attempt. I think everybody there felt like very positive, and then they do the switcheroo. And I think if you're going to be patient, and I said it on shows, like you're going to kind of have to wait till after Labor Day for this campaign to reset and become a real campaign again, because the coup that they instituted on Joe Biden and the sugar high and all the favorable media, you kind of had to let that pass. And so now we're 30 days into that with 30 days to go. And what do we know? We know that people compare what their situation was in their life. This is a unique circumstance where you have former President Trump running again, and things were going really well. And people know that. And as much as Kamala Harris and others try to scare people about Donald Trump, they know that gas is cheaper. They know the grocery bill is cheaper. They know that buying a house is, half of what the cost is to do it now. All those things are real in people's lives. And then you put that up against what her actual record was. And remember, Vince, she ran in 2020, took all these crazy positions, and never made it to Iowa. Like, so she wasn't some phenomenon, Barack Obama meets, Elvis Presley or something. Like, no one was excited about that. Yeah. She didn't make it to Iowa. And so she's not a particularly good candidate. Her policy positions are way out of step with America. And the challenge is now, for the next 30 days, to hammer those points home so people remember who she actually is. And I think the taxpayer-funded sex change operations for illegal immigrants is emblematic. It's one thing, but it's emblematic of how radical she really is. And I think that is starting to catch on.
Senator Schmitt, finally, how do you view the Biden-Harris administration and the way they're handling these storms? Hurricane Helene just savaged the southeast United States. That area is still picking up the pieces, still doing rescue recovery efforts now. Meanwhile, Hurricane Milton is now barreling towards the Gulf Coast. How has the Biden-Harris administration handled this, in your view?
It's a total disgrace, and it actually sort of brings to light what they've done to like government institutions that are actually supposed to work in a disaster. What are they focused on? DEI policy. And now, I mean, in an ultimate sort of tone deafness, Kamala Harris just tweeted out 2 days ago announcing $180 million in addition to the $200 million that had already been sent to Lebanon. Like, it is they live in this bubble, Vince, where they don't fully appreciate the circumstances of everyday people. That's what the Democrat Party is now. And so the suffering that people have, they weren't allowing private enterprise like Elon Musk had a chance to meet him backstage at the rally too. And you've got a situation where Starlink wasn't being made available. Like, they were blocking these sorts of things that could help people. So it's total dysfunction. And it's what happens when your focus on government is all this sort of stuff that people get upset about, again, like DEI and endless money for foreign countries, but nothing for folks back here. And so this America First agenda resonates with people. They know it, which is why they're so desperate to try to dismiss every criticism as so-called misinformation and disinformation. And if they had it their way, if it wasn't for the lawsuit and some of the other things that happened a couple of years ago, they'd be censoring speech with these big tech platforms. The government will be doing it. They might be doing some of it now, but they can't do it to the extent that they were, which is why these fights are so important for us to engage in and win, and why the election's so important in, 29 days.
It definitely is. Senator Eric Schmitt, thank you for your time today. Good to talk to you as always.
All right, Vince, take care.
That's Senator Schmitt. Senator Vance is about 10 minutes away. Hold tight for that. Let's go to the phones. I've got Chris calling in from San Diego, line 4. Chris, good afternoon, sir. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, good afternoon, Vince. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Kamala Harris, who wasn't the border czar, right?
Right.
But she was working on determining the root causes of migration for how long?
Uh-huh.
Are we going to get the report, or is anybody going to ever ask her?
That's right. Yeah.
Where's
that report that we were promised?
She accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially since we're also sending money down to Honduras, Guatemala, and Venezuela, the Northern Triangle.
Yeah.
All the foreign aid we're sending down there also to improve their economies, so they won't come here. But yet, we're just paying everywhere.
Yes, except for Western North Carolina. They can apply. If they can find internet someday, they can apply for $750. That's what Kamala Harris says. Yeah, you're totally right about that, Chris. She was assigned to root causes, and she never came back with a report or anything. That would be, I think in most schools, at least in the old days, that'd be a failing grade. Sorry, you never turned the assignment in. You fail. Coming up next, a much better vice president of the United States should he win. Senator J.D. Vance will be with us moments from now. We'll get an update on the campaign from him, what's happening, and we'll talk a little bit about the events he participated in today to mark October 7th.